Denise, hi, how are you doing? Welcome to Our Side of the Net. We're here today primarily to discuss the exciting strategic plan that we've put in place together with obviously members of the Tennis BC staff and the Tennis BC board. It was a relatively long process, but a really great process. First, I just want you to introduce yourself, talk about how you became the president of Tennis BC.
Thank you, Joe. I'm Denise Wong. For those of you who don't know me, I'm currently the president of Tennis BC. I've been the president for about a year now. Every board director has a term of 3 years, and so I've actually been on the board this is my 8th year. There are 9 directors, and there are 3 directors with each of 3-year terms that come due every year. I am president. I am joined by my first vice president, Kira Draglia, and my second vice president, Paul Crawford. And I also have our treasurer, Mr. Raymond Toe, Mr. Dave Pemp, who represents our Vancouver Island region, fairly new directors, Ash Singh and Anna Matheson, Madeline Ben, who is actually our secretary and chair of the governance committee. Last but not least, Mr. Rick Hastings, who is currently our past president.
Amazing. And I know that you actually like to play a lot of tennis.
I would like to say that my skill doesn't necessarily represent the amount of tennis I play, but yes, I do like to play tennis. I'm a tennis fan on and off the court. From 2012 onwards, I made it a life goal to go to an official tournament a year, and I go to try and support our Canadian players wherever I am. I play our city leagues here. I play out of Burnaby Tennis Club, and I also support our Tennis BC hub drills as well. The last thing I did was our community tennis leagues that Tennis BC put on as one of our pilot programs from Tennis Canada.
That's awesome. It'd be great to tell everyone where you are going next week, because I am insanely jealous.
I am extremely lucky to be heading to London, UK, and I will be attending Wimbledon day 2. So I'm excited because we'll get to see some pretty big names play out there. Big and small too, right?
I think you'll be able to support a lot of Canadians out there. Rebecca Marino just had an amazing week in Ilkley. She just won the Challenger there. Congrats to her on that. Regarding the strat plan, there was, including obviously who Denise just spoke about with the board, the staff were involved too. It'd be important for me to just shout out who was involved. So obviously our executive director, Jonathan Warnell, director of coaching education, Jeannie Raw, our somewhat new director of tennis for both the Stanley Park and Richmond hub, Graham Kozowski, the administration director, Michelle Zhang, manager of events, Iverson Guan, community and player development assistant, Jasmine Zastera, sanctioning, rankings and event coordinator, Aika Sediawadi, director of admin and member services, Serena Lai, director of marketing and communications, Joanne Hill, communications and media coordinator, Kalea Piroli, and the director of finance, Sandra Hong, and last but certainly not least, our provincial community outreach programs coordinator, Darren Wrighton. So lots of people involved. It's important we start with the weekend that kicked it all off, and maybe there was some work done prior to this, but that's certainly when we all got together at the Sandman, and I'd love to talk to you about that process and how that worked.
I mean, we embarked on a pretty heavy lift. This is our strat plan for the next 5 years, and we took it really seriously. It was the first time that we actually involved a third party to come and facilitate for us. So we had the Greater come in, and the Greater helped with the Tennis Canada strat plan. So, when we took a big step back, we thought it would make so much sense to have a facilitator who can align the national plan and help us customize our provincial plans. So it was really nice to basically get board and management together. We kind of kicked it off. We did some brainstorming like we have in the past, what's working, what isn't working, and we had a very professional approach to it with the third party, the Greater there. And of course, we're not just the tennis community. What I loved about having the third party come in was they helped us conduct surveys, and we were able to send out surveys to our member clubs, but also to the greater tennis community. So people listening who are Tennis BC Insider subscribers would have gotten a link to do a survey, and anybody we thought that, part of our survey that, we would really like their input. We also double sent out an invite for that survey feedback.
And was that well received?
Yeah, I think it was good for the first time doing something so broad, so big. Of course, you never know what you're going to get. And so,
Sure.
Hopefully the next time when people have a bit more knowledge of, your voice counts and this is Tennis BC, we want to hear your thought on the tennis community, regardless of where you are in the province. Hopefully people will see that as an opportunity to speak up and send in their comments and feedback for us.
Yeah, for sure. It was definitely well set up when we got there. There was a lot of information that we'd already collected. And then we get in a room for 2 days and hash out our initial thoughts. And that was a really interesting exercise, having the staff and the board together. It's always nice to be able to do that. It was a fun weekend.
Yeah, definitely. I thought the best thing about this whole exercise was it allowed us to redefine who we are as an organization. And so all of us who play tennis know that our games start with love, right? So what we really did was we redefined our purpose as an organization. And so, while we have pillars that help us identify and set the direction of what we do on a daily basis, it allowed us the opportunity to really think about who we are as an organization, what's our purpose, what's our mission, and what's our vision. And so I'm happy to announce that our purpose is to spread the love of tennis.
Yeah.
And again, every game starts with love. So we're spreading the love of tennis. And our mission is just to inspire and support the growth of tennis across BC. And I would be remiss to say, yes, a lot of us are here from Vancouver calling in from the Lower Mainland, but really wanting to tap in the different corners of the province, really making that growth and the spread of the love of tennis across the province is really big for our mission.
Yeah.
And then, of course, that ties into our vision of Tennis BC being the leader of promoting tennis across our province. And I think that's really underscores what the directors of today are really passionate about, what our management team is really passionate about. It's not Tennis Vancouver, Tennis Lower Mainland, it's Tennis BC. And that's really, really where we're going.
Yeah, absolutely. You don't always get an opportunity to plan your future in a way and put your foot down and say, we want to achieve these things over the next few years and really have some ideas and put your ideas on the table. So that was an exciting thing for us all to be able to share our ideas. And now it's even more exciting to implement them going forward. And so you're absolutely right. I think we definitely want to think about this for the whole of BC.
I still think about our board as perhaps, and I make reference to this anytime I talk to individuals who are interested in joining the board, individuals who are no longer on the board, is we're probably one of the boards that still actively play our sport. And so tennis as a unifier, we definitely always have tennis in some format when we get together as board and management, because it's always fun. It's a way to connect, and it always brings out the best in us.
Absolutely. We came up essentially with the 3 pillars that most reflects what we'd like to do in the next 5 years. Something that we can really, whenever we have discussions internally as a staff, when we go have our weekly meetings, we can actually use these pillars to keep progressing and making sure we're actually sticking to it. And I think it was a really good way of doing it. So would you like to introduce the pillars and maybe a little bit of a broader sense of what it means to you and the board for why these 3 things are so important?
Yeah. Okay. So what I loved about this is, humans, we don't have a lot of attention span. And in today's world, we have to keep it simple. So we have 3 key pillars, and the 3 key pillars are basically get into the game, build the game, and stay in the game. So get, build, stay. That's as simple as we can get. Yeah. Of course, our biggest ambition is obviously to grow the game of tennis in BC. So we're going to do that under the 3 pillars here. And so when we think about getting into the game, a lot of the times you're thinking about how do you promote the game of tennis? How do you start playing the game? How do you get into the game? So, and Joe, you're probably way more closer to this than I am, but just pick up the racket, try the game. There's lots of initiatives happening, and like you said, I mean, it's June right now, and so it's tennis month in Canada. So there's lots of initiatives across the province, across the country, where you can go and pick up a racket and try the game. That's kind of one of the things I love about the first one.
I think we have already implemented it. The regional coordinators. Our regional coordinators now in the Fraser Valley. We have one on the Lower Mainland. We have one on the island, one in the interior. That is focused around this get in the game, because we want to do more of these try programs. And also, I love this idea of the social gatherings, because tennis can be quite intimidating, I think, to get into. You go to a park, there's people playing, they seem to know what they're doing. But if we could create a social gathering, something that leads into going and playing and creating a friendship, that's going to be really, really important.
Yeah. And Joe, if I may, like what you just said about the social aspect of it also speaks to our third pillar, which is stay in the game, because we've all been there where you felt intimidated, but you just needed someone to be like, hey, come on over, come play with us.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
That positive vibe, that positive experience, it's all about positivity, right? So what you're saying about those social aspects, that's going to make somebody who's tried the game and starts to sort of like it, wants to play a bit more, stay in the game, because they've got friends now and they've got somebody that they can get involved with and know that they can sort of get a pickup game of tennis with.
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously, I think, our marketing has really stepped up. I think everyone can see that now. Social media has been a big focus this year, and Kalea's done just such a wonderful job of that, and that will attract new players to the sport and hopefully encourage them to get in the game. So lots of people say stop getting people in the game, it's too busy, but
no, but I think that's actually a really good point. You've got two threads I want to address there. So number one, for those of you who don't follow Tennis BC on Instagram, please do, because you get tennis with Joe on Tuesdays, and I think Graham's in there with this beautiful background. There's a couple of reels in there, and
I think Graham does a better job, so we'll get Graham to keep doing them.
Well, I took a couple of lessons on your serve one, and Iverson had a good cross court one with Graham. I really enjoyed those. The team's doing an amazing job of showing little hits of tennis tips, things that are useful on and off the court. But to your point about, again, what you're saying really is you're building the game. So you're in the game, you're staying in the game, but then you want to build into the game. And I can probably speak like the average public court player. I was super intimidated to come out and play. I think I joined, I think I'm okay to say this, I joined the New West Tennis Club. I was probably a member for 8 years before I had, the confidence to go and play in ladies' night, and then they slowly invited me to play in league. But again, that's the build the game. You're building your capacity, you're building your curiosity, you're building your skills, and you're playing with people, and so you're slowly getting into the game. And I've probably I love the game of tennis, but to be truly active playing, I've really only, last year was the first time I truly played a season of tournaments, and obviously with mixed results, but that's okay. It's just about playing, and it's about getting out there, getting over those heebie-jeebies and the nervousness of being in a game. But at the end of the day, building capacity, building events, the performance, and then of course, when we have the demand, our job as board and management is to build the supply. So our job is to try and find more courts that we can put programming on to cover, so that in Vancouver during the fall and the winter we have more opportunities to play. So that's all of the three pillars, and that's what we're super excited about.
Yeah, definitely important for people to understand, and they probably know anyway, that's our biggest challenge. Me, from a competitive high performance standpoint, where I'm looking to run as many camps as I can and have as many tournaments. So, our players right the way from rookie tour all the way through to the 5-star provincials have enough tournaments. I know we've increased the amount tenfold with the help of Iverson and Ica and Jasmine and Darren. We're doing everything we possibly can, but it is a challenge. So that's for us to get together and really try and cover the courts in Vancouver and across BC so we can put more of these exciting things on.
Absolutely. Because, we talk about high performance from the juniors play, but there's also the seniors tour as well.
Oh my God, yeah.
Playing as adults. And what if you're not at that level? I'm definitely not at that level. So what is there for me? What is my player roadmap as just an average public court player who wants to get better? So I know Tennis BC, you and your team, Joe, are working really hard to find more avenues for us to play.
Yeah, definitely. And I think the Community Tennis League has been a huge success. It's certainly something that we've led the charge on at the whole country. I'm very proud of what it's been able to do so far. And I think if we can increase that, then a lot of the things that we were discussing there will help, right? And you're a member of the CTL. How was your experience?
I loved it. As a public court player who wasn't a member of a private club before, it's not uncommon to go to your local court and find somebody to play. What I loved about it is the moment the league box went live, I got emails and phone calls and text messages. And there's always that one person that's going to round us all up and have a WhatsApp group and says, okay, who's playing? Who's playing? When? Where? It's great. So I love the enthusiasm, and that just validates everything that we know. Tennis is in a hot demand. The other thing that I thought was very cool was the level of play. Now, I joined CTL to try and improve my WTN score. So for those of you who don't know, the WTN is sort of this number. Joe, correct me, it's like from 1 to 50 or 1 to 60, something like that.
Yeah, something like that. I think the lower numbers, the better.
Right, so like a Roger Federer is like 1 to 10 or something like that, or Serena's like an 8 or something. And so I'm somewhere in the 30s to 40s. I thought I better, as president, I probably improve that better. And I think I actually went the other way. Because the level of play on public courts is actually incredibly high. Sportsmanship was great. The level of play was great. We had giggles. We were laughing. It was awesome. As somebody who's promoting the love of the sport, I feel like we're on the right track. We're doing the right thing.
Yeah, no, for sure. The Community Tennis League, there's a lot that goes into these things. It's not just click your fingers and it happens. It's been a great success and great to see the adults using that.
But what I love is that we've now introduced the doubles as well.
I know.
So ever transforming and finding ways for adult, regular, average players like me to go out and play.
The mixed gender or becoming, it's
BC was one of the 4 provinces that were the the guinea pigs, if you will.
Yeah.
And BC leads the charge. I think in 2023 we had almost 500 entries leading the charge. I'm a numbers person. I love stats. We had over 25,000 people visit the CTL site, which means that there's a lot of people in Canada interested in our sport, and that's perfect. That's wonderful.
Yeah, no, for sure. Jasmine and Aisha have just done an incredible job of promoting it and organizing it, basically. It's been great to see. I think the final pillar for me is probably the most important. I don't know, just from a personal point of view, the staying in the game. Unfortunately for juniors, it's something it's a big challenge, particularly with girls. It's something that we've got to, like we've got in the strat plan, got to try and navigate over the next few years and see what works. I think we've got some really, really important things things like the girl set match that has been a real success. I've had them all over the province. Noah Jerowich is kind of leading that now. I think she's got some great ideas to increase the girl set match, what we can do with them. Rebecca Marino has been a big ambassador for that. Trying to educate parents on what the pathways are. I think kids start out, they want to play at Wimbledon. And then when they get to 13, 14, that might not necessarily be a realistic goal. So it's educating them on what the other avenues you can go down that's maybe not high performance, because it doesn't always have to be. It's not high performance or quit. Tennis offers so much more than that. And I think it's just educating the kids and the parents to understand the amount you can get out of playing the sport, because it can give you a lot back.
It really speaks to some of, this sustainability idea, staying in the sport. And I think about sustainability, as a player, making sure that we talk about tennis as a sport for life. I had the opportunity of being at the newest tennis club when we had one of our former members live to, I think, 101, maybe 102. So wow. Mr. Ed Bloodstone was still, at the net, putting away volleys. And everybody at the newest tennis club knows him very well. And, may he rest in peace, but he's definitely a figure, again, a good role model for sport for life, right? You mentioned girls, women, and sport. I mean, also a topic close to my heart as well. I mean, you talked about sort of the kids, but think about adults too. As a female player, you might get married, start having kids, and you might be a super active player, but when you're a parent, you're taken away from the sport for a bit, and then you come back. It's very intimidating to get back into it. So our numbers don't lie. And the frequency that female adult players also and the numbers of female competitive players at the tournaments and the draw sizes, and definitely opportunities to look at ways to make that a bit more engaging and a bit more having more players come back out to play will make that a little more solid for everybody. And I think coaches too. We sometimes forget about the coaches, right? What's the game plan for coaches? It's great when you're young, but what about when you start becoming 30, late 30s, 40 plus, and you start to hear your knees? What's the game plan for our coaches in our sport?
Yeah, that's a great point.
I love what some of our tennis partners in the community are doing, like Summer Smash, I would say Fabio and team at the North Shore Winter Club, and also Tennis Troop with what they're doing, for mental health, but also other series of events that happen throughout the year. I also want to mention those who are not necessarily out there all the time, but they're doing little pockets of tournaments and pickup games with little groups of people. They are there in the community, and I want to recognize and give them a pat on the back, because that's what Stay in the Game is all about. It's that positive tennis experience, and having champions such as yourselves organize that, because sometimes it feels like it's a thankless job, but when everybody's leaving the court and they're all happy, you've done what you're supposed to do, and you've left a positive experience on the court.
Well said. Yeah. Was there anything else that you wanted to get into in terms of the pillars?
I mean, I could talk forever, Joe. But I mean, our pillars are basically, again, our focus for the first 5 years. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that we're set in stone on these things, because, life changes, tennis changes, the world changes. We also have what we call core enablers and foundational pieces that are maybe not as exciting to talk about, but we definitely do want to keep in mind that we have a technology underlying piece here that's going to help us execute on all of the pillars that we want to do. So things like talking about getting apps to help with booking courts or helping us find where the bottlenecks are in our game, for example. And maybe we can help municipalities manage courts a little better with this data and this information, and at least that's our vision. And of course, like governance and culture, like we talk about culture as in stay in the game in our third pillar, but there's governance as well. It's not as fun, it's a little boring, but it's one of those things that we need to have, because without the infrastructure, we can't ensure that people have the space to play in, the safe environment in which to play in, and the fun. All the stuff that happens behind the scenes is sort of captured by that.
Yeah, absolutely. And where can people find this strap plan?
Okay, very good question.
It's not a secret.
No, it's not at all. And we definitely want listeners and everybody in our tennis community to take a look. I'm hoping it's on our website. At least it should be on our website under Strap Plan. And those of you who are interested, please go take a peek. A lot of time, effort, and work was put into that. You all had a hand in building this with us. And of course, like always, if you think that something needs to change or you have some feedback, we're always going to be open to hearing that.
absolutely. Sure, we'll put a link to the full strat plan. And like Denise said, if there's anything in there that you want to comment on, please let me know. And yeah, thank you so much, Denise.
Absolutely. Thank you, Joe, and for everybody listening, our tennis community. It's only as amazing in BC because of every one of you. So thank you.
Big thanks from me personally for everything you've given me, and to everyone listening and watching. Tennis BC has completely changed. Tennis in BC has changed my life from my first day at the North Shore Winter Club in 2014 to 10 years later working for Tennis BC. It's been a hell of a journey. So thank you, everyone. And we'll keep continuing to do everything we can to make it better.
All for the love of the game, Joe.
All right. Thanks, Denise.
Thanks, Joe.
See ya.